Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be talking about the IETF. But before I begin, let me see a rise of hands who heard about the IETF. That's great. Who actually participates in the work of the IETF? Okay. Well, I won't ask who uses the IETF standards, because I think that the answer is obvious. We all do. Well, great. Then I'll probably go a bit quicker on the introduction side, because you probably know a lot about this work. Now, very important, I'm not speaking for the IETF. I'm not speaking for the IETF, I'm speaking about the IETF. The only thing an IETF speaks for themselves is in its document that reached the IETF consensus. That is when IETF, that's the position of the IETF. All the rest are people talking about the IETF or expressing their personal views, even if they're expressing them from their kind of leadership positions. IETF is, I would say, slightly different from like a traditional standard development organizations, because IETF essentially is a community. It's a community of engineers, developers, vendors that come together to develop specifications to make internet work better and more interoperable. It's a community of volunteers. No one is getting paid for their work they do at the IETF. In many cases, their companies kind of donate their time and resources and travel to contribute to that work. But essentially, that's a global community. Well, the internet standards make the internet work. I mean, basically, the internet works on the internet, on the IETF standards. And the area where IETF is active is, if you look at this TCP/IP protocol model, it's between the internet transport and application levels. Somewhere below you see IEEE, ITU, somewhere above you see W3C, OASIS, and other standard development organizations and consortia working on different standards. But there are many more, of course. They're just a few examples I put together here. So I mean, joining IETF is easy. That's why it's not really an organization, that's a community. You need to subscribe to a mailing list and have interest in one of 130 topics that IETF covers, right? And become a member of IETF community is as easy as subscribing to this mailing list. You don't need to attend meetings, although attending meetings is sometimes important in our virtual world when you want to put name to faces and have some social interaction with your peers, your colleagues that you interact by email. But essentially, all the work is done on mailing lists. All decisions are made on mailing lists. So you will not be seen as excluded if you're not attending IETF meetings. IETF meetings happen 3 times a year, and I'll show you some of the locations where they've been and where they're going to be. And all the work is conducted in chunks that are called Internet-Drafts. So if you have an idea, or if you have a specification you would like to standardize through the IETF process, this is submitted in the form of a document that is called Internet-Draft. And then this Internet-Draft is discussed in relevant working group, which is consensus in this working group, and then goes to the IETF as a whole to declare consensus of the IETF as a whole, and then it becomes a standard. That's the mission of the IETF. So, well, basically, it does to make the internet work better by producing high-quality specifications. That's the main objective of this organization. IETF at a glance, well, plus minus, it's about 130 working groups, because working groups are getting charted, organized, and some of the working groups, they finish their work and therefore they disappear. Each of the working group has 2 or 3 chairs that coordinate work in this working group. Every working group has a charter that defines the purpose the objective, the milestones, and yeah, they're created, recharted, concluded. And they're organized into 7 areas. So they're big areas. Each area has an area director, or actually 2 in most cases. And those area directors, they form the kind of IETF leadership, which is called ISG, Internet Engineering Steering Group, which directs, well, basically leads the work of the IETF. But the IETF work is pretty much bottom-up anyway. So here on this slide, you see this 7 areas where most of the work is done, well, not most, all of the work is done in the IETF. And you see this kind of application transport, routing, internet, operations and maintenance, security, and general. Well, general is where what happens on improving the IETF itself, IETF processes. And you might have heard about transition of the IANA stewardship. And that process, for instance, in the IETF happens in this general area in IANA plan working group. So working groups by area, you can see that ARC, which is application real-time, is the biggest one, probably. Well, security is very important, and internet are very important as well as routing and transport. And general, as I said, there is only one working group, IANA plan, that is working, well, was working pretty much on the IANA transition. I know different continents, different countries. IETF meetings not mandatory but important because you can achieve a lot through the meeting. Through face-to-face discussion, through intense working group sessions, you can make a lot of progress. You can clarify things that takes threads and threads on email. You know that's probably very well. Here's some of the IETF meetings that happened. Last meeting was in Prague in July this year, and next meeting we're heading in November to Yokohama, Japan. Here you can see a map in gray. I put meetings that happened already, and green is the upcoming meeting, and the white the meetings to happen. So you see the wide geography of the IETF, where IETF goes. Next meeting, Yokohama. The thing is, you can participate in the meeting even without traveling, right? Of course, it's less intense probably, but you can watch audio streams, you can watch Java scripts. So if for some reason you participate in the IETF work, you cannot attend, there are possibilities for remote participation. But the most important thing that you participate in the work of the IETF. Simply attending the meeting, well, might be interesting, as in getting acquainted how the IETF works and what areas it covers, but it's extremely difficult to follow the IETF work if you're not involved, right? Usually every day consists of 7 tracks running in parallel from 9 till 8 o'clock in the evening. And yeah, a lot of things are happening. So unless you have a very specific area where you work, or specific areas, many people work in different areas, it's quite difficult to follow the IETF work it's not a conference, that's what I'm trying to say. Last meeting that happened was in Prague this summer. 1,300 participants, more than 1,300 participants from 65 countries. I think that was sort of a record. Usually it's about 50 countries people from 50 countries that attend IETF meetings. There were some new things. There was a hackathon that happened before the IETF, and that's where so-called running code was revived in a way. Because one of the IETF principles is rough consensus and running code. Running code is very important for the success of IETF specifications. If specification is just on paper, there is no proof that it can be implemented, it can operate, and running code is very important. So Hackathon the objective was that developers came together and worked on IETF specifications, implementing some parts of it, implementing specifications as a whole, demonstrating how those things can work. was great 2 days, and some, did anyone participate in Hackathon? Yeah, did you participate? Partially, yeah. So there are a few URLs, and I'm sure the presentation, the slides will be posted online. You can have a look. We usually publish so-called rough guides. We, meaning the Internet Society, where we highlight, from our perspective, the most interesting, important things that are happening at the IETF, at the upcoming meeting. So we are planning to do the same for Yokohama. If you're interested, please follow those posts. A few words about IETF activities. IPv6 is still active. There are quite a number of working groups covering different aspects of IPv6, starting from maintenance of the protocol itself, sharing operational experience, but also looking at things like sunset IPv4. How can we facilitate transition of to IPv6 in the new world of scarcity, in the world of IPv4? DNSSEC activities. Well, I think there already were a couple of interesting presentations on DNSSEC, and there is a lot of work happening in the IETF. DNSSEC, DPRIVE, for instance, that works on how can communication between a client and resolver be secured, for instance. Very interesting discussions happening there. Routing activity, well, 3 main working groups, well, there are more, but just to highlight 3 working groups making progress in global routing protocols and architecture. SIDA securing routing protocols. SIDA is working on security extensions for BGP protocol, BGP-SEC, that will allow cryptographic verification of the path in BGP. IDR looking at internet domain routing, both from security and operational point of view, and GROW looking at global routing protocols and global routing system from operational point of view. All of them looking at security aspects to a great extent. Trust, identity, and privacy are topics that attract a lot of attention in the IETF. I listed a few working groups here. If you're interested, you can go and look at their charters. Of course, TLS, DANE, certificate management environment. We know that that's part of the problems of Web PKI, how you automate certificate revocation, renewal, and validation in the Web PKI world. Also interesting working group, public notary transparency, and it tries to standardize the approach taken in certificate transparency by maintaining a digitally signed log, public log of mutations in the certificates, which is very important if you want to capture incidents that we already discussed today with CA either issuing wrong certificates or certificates were revoked improperly, stuff like that. And many, many more topics, including topics like cybersecurity, Internet of Things, cloud computing, and data centers. There are no working groups on cybersecurity, there are no working groups on Internet of Things, there are no marketing, but there are a lot of building blocks that IETF is working on that are part of those themes and those topics. Internet Society has 2 programs, the IETF Fellow Program and IETF Fellow Program for Regulators that facilitates attendance of the IETF meetings by newcomers to get a taste of IETF meetings, or for those who already participate in the IETF process and would like to participate in person, get more acquainted with the way IETF work and topics IETF works on. Here's the URL, please, if you're interested, please have a look. There's some requirements that are there, but if you think you're interested and you think you meet the requirements, please apply. Well, that's the second program that I mentioned. That's the program for regulators. It's also very important for regulators to come and see how internet standards are being developed. I think in our experience, some of them were very much surprised. They just said, well, I never imagined that the internet standards are working that way. And I never imagined that in that setting, in those kind of discussions, in this kind of process of consensus reaching, you can actually create these specifications. So for some of them, that's really an eye-opener. Again, if you know a friendly regulator, or you are a regulator that are interested in the work of the IETF, here's the URL. Please have a look and apply. So that's a short summary of my introductory talk. The IETF is here to work the internet work better. Your participation is critical, right? IETF is a global effort that captures local significance. So your development, your talent, your energy is important for the IETF. It's open, inclusive. At the same time, it's a well-established structure and proven processes. It's not that things are happening in chaos. It's a well-documented process how the standards are developed and approved. And more information, that's the URL, especially set up for newcomers, where you can